Please welcome Jenn. Jenn is a coach who stands for empowerment and a lifelong educator. I'm interested in like the science, like the neurology, the psychology of making mistakes. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Your brain creates neural pathways when you do things. So when we do something right, we create a pathway. When we do something we don't want, we also create a pathway, and we build habits this way. So one of the reasons why we keep making the same mistakes over and over again is because we slip back to default and we operate on one of the already existing pathways. Kind of crazy. And the thing that I found was that it's unexpected. It's best not to learn from past mistakes, because when we remember them and we're like, okay, I want a do-over, we push our brain back down to, oh, look at, that's that pathway that you wanted to avoid. Look at that, look at that, look at that. And your brain goes, okay, I'm going to go down that pathway. And then, so it's actually more empowering and neurologically effective to think about what you want to accomplish and try to look at the situation in a new light versus referencing the past.
So what you're saying is like, if you focus too much on what you did to make the mistake, the brain kind of familiarizes itself with it that much, and it's like easier to do that again rather than do something different.
Yeah. Like if you reference the past, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that thing. And then off you go versus, this is a new situation.
I think that we can often be afraid to do something because the outcome could be a failure or we might make a mistake. I also have a lot of bad neural pathways up there, apparently.
I mean, it's interesting how you call them good and bad. Like, it's just a neural pathway. Like why are you assigning it a good or bad? It's just there.
So it's like a mistake isn't necessarily bad unless you decide it's bad and you label it as bad, and then that's kind of it just is. And then when you it's the label of good versus bad that makes it a quote unquote a mistake versus just a thing that happened.
We know ourselves, you know yourself really well, and how to frame something in a way that empowers you versus like sends you off to your your old habits, whatever those are.
So you were saying like if we focus on mistakes a little too much and think about them too much, that's kind of like a path to creating more mistakes and kind of just continuing to go down that road. But if we reframe it kind of how we think about a mistake and kind of like think of it rather as something we can learn from rather than a bad thing that happened that must be avoided, is that a healthy way to look at it?
I think an easy way to think about it is instead of perseverating on this is what I don't want, look at this is what I want. So if I don't want, the don't want, your brain goes, oh yeah, you want that thing that you don't want. It doesn't understand negatives. So then we look at, instead of I don't want to, I don't know, what's a habit? Like, I don't want to eat ice cream. I don't want to eat ice cream. I don't want to eat ice cream. And in my brain, I'm like, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. And then I look at, I want to like take a breath. I want to take care of myself. I'm going to look at this. And then I don't think about that. It doesn't trigger that old memory or that old neural pathway.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so Bo, just don't think about it.
Think about something else.
Yeah. Okay, so learn nothing. I got it. Okay.
It's not to say that we don't, like, we skirt responsibility and be like, it already happened, whatever. It's not that. It's like, what do you want to create? Where do you want to go? Like, we can have ownership and also creation at the same time. That makes any sense?
My biggest fear in life is the feeling of being in trouble.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
It's the worst. And so that's how I feel sometimes when I make a mistake. Like I'm in trouble, if not with anyone else, like myself. So I'm curious, like if like just in a nutshell, like why would you say that it's good to make mistakes?
You are where you are because of the mountain of mistakes that you made or failure attempts to learn all the things you learn. I mean, look at us as children. You walk right away? No, you fall down a million times. So it's like thinking about the value of where we're going and what we could, like, what do you want? And to know that to get there, you're gonna make mistakes because we don't just get everything right away. So it's like the Matrix, like choose your pill. Do you want to stay the same and be scared, totally fine. That's your choice. Or do you want to create something and go on an adventure, but know that it's not going to be easy, but you're going to get something out of it. And failure and mistakes are going to come with you.
I believe it was Yoda from Star Wars who said the greatest teacher failure is. So it kind of, and that's something I've thought about a lot too, because I mean, my internal voice or monologue or however you want to call it for the longest time was like so mean to myself and hard on myself, where it's like, where I think about like, there's some mistakes I've made that I'm not going to dive into on this, but like in my head, when I've thought about like certain mistakes that I've made in the past for forever, I was so angry at myself for making that mistake and so just like beating myself up to the point where it's like you don't like yourself when you talk to yourself that way, right? At least me. And then now I've kind of pivoted where you kind of look where we all are. I feel like we're all probably doing pretty good in life right now in spite of these mistakes. So it's like it's just a necessary detour on the road to get where we are. We're kind of killing it. Let's be honest. We're crushing.
Guys, I had a Matrix reference and Star Wars reference on my High Nice People interview bingo card. And also whatever this insane like David Bowie inspired light thing is that's going on in my face right now.
It's kind of awesome.
It is kind of cool. I like it. It's a happy mistake. I want to give you both the opportunity to kind of close us out with some closing thoughts. So, Bo, we'll start with you.
Yeah, kind of the big takeaway for me is like how you frame it in your head, like the celebration of fail. I loved that. I was like, that's awesome because it's like it kind of makes when you kind of open yourself up to it and kind of like embrace it. I mean, it seems like it's a lot less scary when it's something you could high five your friends about. You're like, oh, I blew it.
Yeah. And I mean, with comedy stuff, you know, there's always like embracing the bomb.
That's why we love telling bomb stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No one, when you meet another comedian, no one's ever like, what's the best set you ever had? Or it's at least not the first question they ask you. I think it's much more interesting to talk about what's the worst show you ever did. Yeah. I know mine, you know.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah. Jen, what do you have to close us out with?
I would say if I would challenge everyone listening to be kind and curious the next time you make a mistake.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us today and talking about mistakes.